So next we're going to talk about Jasmine Mooney, Canadian detained by ICE trying to come through the southern border of the U.S. So we got a clip here, her explaining her story. We'll play that for you, a little brief part of it, and then we'll talk about it after.
Jasmine Mooney is a Canadian citizen who had a work visa, no criminal record, and had been traveling back and forth between Canada and California without any complications until she says she was suddenly detained without explanation at the San Diego border when she tried to reapply for a new visa. For information, how long will I be here? I don't know your case, the man said. Could be days, could be weeks. But I'm telling you right now, you need to mentally prepare yourself for months.
None of us had a criminal record. Everyone's story was different, a lot of the same. A lot of women, I believe, should not be in there. I was transferred twice in 2 weeks, which is an awful experience. There were girls in there who had been transferred 8 times in a couple weeks.
Do you believe that you were kept in there because you were a moneymaker?
Yes, I do.
So in that clip, yeah, like it's pretty crazy. The whole part where she's, talking about, it just felt like they're in there for profit, and how they were told, like, it could be days, it could be weeks, but prepare yourself for months to be in there. That's pretty crazy. That is pretty wild that they're just like so brazen about it, I guess. Like the fact she ended up in there is another thing, but the way that the system is, I think, should be like the huge focus here, because this is like literally, it's just like a for-profit system, it sounds like.
Well, you got to think about the fact that if they were trying to save money, the whole concept of a lot of the stuff happening right now is that they're supposed to be eliminating waste. How wasteful is it that they detained a Canadian, held her for over almost 2 weeks, transferred her to multiple different prisons? Why? For what? How is that a good use of resources?
Well, that's where,
and you think about exactly what she said. Can you imagine if you're just like a regular, a green card holder or something like that? Like that guy who's being booted, the Mahmoud, I don't know what his name is, the guy for protesting for Hamas too. It's the same thing, right? It's stuff where they're just not getting their due process. No one even knows. These people aren't even being charged with crimes. They're not being put in front of a court or a judge or anybody, right? There's no due process. They're just doing whatever they want. Consequences be damned, right? It's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission.
But at the end of the day, I just think like the space, like the whole world we're in right now, this America that's emerging, where a Canadian can be detained in America, or trying to travel through America with a Canadian passport, is wild to me. Like, why was she detained as well? Like, that's something we should be looking into. And having like I have friends who are talking about oh, you shouldn't go down there right now. Then there's also friends who I have who would say it's no problem at all if you're just going down there, because if you fly down, you come back up, you're dealing with Canadians, right? So on your way back in, right? So it's a lot easier. So they're not as worried about getting stuck there or something. But like I think this whole situation must have been a series of flukes, but it highlights what the system could be becoming, right? And I think that's I don't know, to me, I'm not really all for-profit detention centers in prisons.
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of this just reminds me of, in Jurassic Park, the Velociraptors, how they jump against the electric fence, testing for weak spots to see where they can get through. That's what this feels like. This feels like a lot of just pushing the envelope as far as possible to see where the limits are, to see what you can get away with before people actually start to push back. Well, I think that what we're learning is you can get away with quite a lot before people start to push back, right?
I don't think that's entirely true, because look at the 51st state rhetoric. Trump's popularity plummeted in Canada. Like, you had actually almost at one point,
in Canada,
a huge portion of Canadians supported who admired Trump and supported his decisions and stuff. And now that number, like, I know that they've done a recent poll, and it was just like they estimate like less than 10% of Canadians even respect him anymore, right? They're all offended by what he's
trying to do. Well, it's a nosedive too, right? Because if you look at the like, there was prior to that, there was like 40% or something of at least conservatives, I think, were like in favor.
Not even just conservatives, it was just generally like there's a lot of people, like I have family like on my wife's side that are like 80 and they like Trump, right? Until recently. Now they don't like him anymore. You know what I mean? I think what's happened in the States has definitely shaken up Canada. But to me, as a conservative, I don't think we should be afraid to say Trump is nuts. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to be a Republican to be a conservative in Canada. And I think people need to understand that, because it seems to be some serious tribalism that I didn't really realize was there until we started this channel, and seeing it come into, maybe it's just online spaces where it exists, and maybe maybe it's not entirely all an accurate representation of where the public's at. But I think maybe most rational people just aren't going to the internet for for the political views these days, or at least YouTube in Canada.
And I mean, I've heard things like that the media will adapt to the times, right? People will learn how to discern what's more trustworthy than other things. But right now, you have a lot of people, and I mean, we've all seen it. We all knew people that, previously didn't use the internet that much. And then COVID happened and they were inside and they were on their smartphones a lot more than usual. And, their entire media landscape changed. And, it's important to remember that a lot of your view of the world is shaped by the media you consume, right? We don't personally know, like I would say that 99% of the people, probably more, that are going to watch this video have never been to Ukraine. They've never been to Israel. They've never been to any of these places that they have really strong opinions about, right? And you have to remember that you have to try and like consume a media that is giving you a more encompassed and nuanced view on what something is. If somebody's coming to you as an American and telling you exactly what's happening on the other side of the world, you should be a little bit skeptical about what they're saying, right? And on either side, right? Anytime somebody gives you an all-encompassing or a very simplified view of something, you should be conscious of what they are kind of presenting to you as truth. Because if you don't know a lot about the topic, then it's easy for somebody to kind of pretend that they do and you not be able to know, you won't notice it, right? And something I also wanted to touch on too, because you were talking about people battling for the center. A thing that's kind of freaky, I think, about, a lot of this Trump stuff happening is that the center moves when people shift too far in one direction, right? Because now if somebody came along, if let's say a Ron DeSantis shows up and he says, I'm for everything that Trump's doing except for the 51st state stuff. Now he looks centered because he's just removed that one thing, right? Now he's closer to the center than Trump was. Whereas, 10, 15 years ago, he would have been a radical like lunatic, right? Like for him to go that far all at once. But because we've kind of been this frog in a boiling water thing where it's things have just slowly gotten a little bit crazier and a little bit crazier. And it's like, is Trump serious about the 51st state stuff? I don't think anybody knows. I don't even know if Trump knows. Like that's the reality of the situation. And it's I don't know, it's just a wacky world, right? It's just a wacky place we're in. That's like that's the actual leader of the free world right now is this raving madman,